The Nintendo Switch 2 has been out for over a year at this point, and there's a lot that we already know about the console, and there's a lot to know about the console, but there's probably a lot of stuff that a lot of people didn't know about the Nintendo Switch 2. Today I'm going to be telling you 10 rarely known facts about the Nintendo Switch 2. If you did know it, put it down in the comments below if you did know it, and yeah, we'll go from there. So fact number 1 about the Nintendo Switch 2 isn't actually about the console itself, it's about the dock. So the dock actually contains active cooling, so unlike the original Nintendo Switch dock, the Switch 2 dock includes a fan in the back of the dock to help the console sustain a higher performance whilst connected to a TV, also preventing the components to overheat whilst you're playing in like the high performance quality games. Pretty cool. Sucks air in these holes underneath, circulates it around the dock, and pumps it out of the fans at the top. Pretty cool. So one of the main selling points for the Nintendo Switch 2 was Game Chat. And one thing you may not have known about Game Chat is that it actually reserves hardware resources. So Nintendo set aside some processing and network resources specifically for Game Chat features, so voice chat and screen sharing don't impact the game performance as heavily. That means you can still play your games in 4K or 1080p or whatever you play it in whilst using Game Chat. I'll admit, I doubt anyone uses Game Chat because yeah, it's crap. Another main selling point for the Nintendo Switch 2 is that the Joy-Con 2s actually have mouse controls, and did you know they also work on almost any flat surface? Nintendo actually demonstrated this working not only on desks but also on clothing and other textured surfaces. Thanks to upgraded sensors, it can work on surfaces like this, like this, like this, or even this. Another rarely known fact about the Nintendo Switch is that Joy-Con 2s took a while to make. Nintendo reportedly spent years experimenting with different attachment systems for the new Joy-Cons, including prototypes that still use the rails from the Nintendo Switch 1 before settling on the magnetic lock design. The final system was chosen partly because it made attaching controllers easier for children whilst remaining durable enough for frequent use. Pretty cool. Going back to the subject of the Nintendo Switch 2 dock from earlier on in the video, the dock can actually update its own firmware. This dock contains enough electronics that Nintendo can patch and improve its behaviour independently of the console, which, if I remember correctly, I believe was also a feature on the Nintendo Switch 1 dock. Still, it's pretty cool. Did you know Nintendo actually redesigned the whole vibration system for the Joy-Con 2? HD Rumble 2 provides stronger and more detailed feedback than the first generation, even able to create audible noises with different waves of vibration. For example, these note blocks in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Oh yeah! Whilst we're on the subject of HD Rumble 2, the Joy-Con 2 controllers actually have a different vibration placement. Nintendo didn't just upgrade the rumble motors, the internal layout changed to improve how vibration travels through the controller shell, giving you a more immersive feel whilst playing the game. Pretty cool. So the next one is actually something that a lot of you may have known, but I'm going to tell you anyway, just in case. So the Nintendo Switch 2 actually has AI upscaling. The Nintendo Switch 2 uses a custom NVIDIA processor that supports DLSS, Deep Learning Super Sampling, which is NVIDIA's AI-powered upscaling technology. Instead of rendering a game at full resolution, for example 4K, the console can render it at a lower resolution such as 1080p or 1440p, and then use AI to reconstruct a sharper image that looks closer to native 4K. So what you're actually looking at is not actually what you're playing, essentially, kind of. It's all been upscaled by AI, which is really cool. Did you know, Nintendo quietly improved wireless latency? Controller communication and wireless networking both received upgrades that reduced delay, though Nintendo hasn't actually marketed this at all. Last but not least, let me grab my Switch 2. Nintendo may have accidentally solved one of the biggest problems in modern gaming, which is CPU bottlenecks. So most people talk about DLSS, 4K output, or the bigger screen, which is pretty cool. The more interesting story is that the Switch 2 appears to be built around a surprisingly modern architecture for a handheld. On the Nintendo Switch 1, game developers often weren't limited by the graphics power, they were limited by the CPU. That's why games like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Pokemon Scarlet, No Man's Sky, they had to make compromises with NPC counts, simulation complexity, world streaming, and frame rate stability. The Nintendo Switch 2's modern NVIDIA architecture doesn't just make these games prettier, but it can dramatically change how much stuff can happen at once inside the game. This is, well, it's what you want from a game. You want it to be able to load pretty much everything it can at once. So my friends, that was 10 possibly kind of interesting facts that you may not have known about the Nintendo Switch 2. After doing the busting 10 Nintendo Switch 2 myths, I wanted to do 10 Nintendo Switch 2 facts. And how well the Switch 2 myths video is going, I might be doing a second one, so stay tuned. Honestly, I love talking about this thing. It is my favourite console to date, better than the Switch 1. Obviously, I prefer it more than my PS4, which I could see that happening, to be honest. It really is just a really, really good piece of kit, and I love it. So yeah, that brings us to the end of today's video. Be sure to like the video, be sure to subscribe as well to support the channel in any way you can as well. That'd be greatly appreciated. Remember to hit the notification bell as well so you get reminded when I upload. I'm trying to do 2 videos a week. We're going to see how that goes. Yeah, hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day.